Hey everyone. It has never been easier to have any show you want at the tip of your fingertips within seconds. We're completely spoiled by choice, and part of that is almost a problem. I rarely find myself watching things on streaming services nowadays. We're so spoiled by choice that when you want to sit down and watch something, sometimes you just can't choose, and you spend a while looking through your options and there goes your time, you've got to go do real life important stuff now. Nowadays, most of the movies and shows that I watch are completely through word of mouth, and incidentally, I think they're some of the best pieces of media that I've ever seen. There's something extremely special about being told about a show by someone with a clear passion for it, and then going to watch it and finding out you really like it, and now you have something great to talk about. Along the other side of that coin is telling someone else about something you've discovered and getting to show someone something that you think is genuinely special. That's what this video is all about. I want to share with whoever is watching this some of my favorites, the things I rewatch a bunch because they just feel so alive. Cozy is the word I would use, but in this case that is an extremely opinionated word. Some of these probably don't fit the definition of cozy, but that's how I feel watching them, and that's what it's all about. They don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be anything besides a feeling. Let me show you some of my favorites.
Otamura-san! What does yaoi mean?
I love trivial things. I love sitting here and writing this script. I had a lot of fun sitting and mindlessly editing the last video, and probably will again this video. Though not entirely unimportant, it's sort of monotonous. I generally think trivial is seen as a negative word, but I don't think it should be all the time. Trivial is the word I would use to describe Lucky Star, yet it's one of my all-time favorites. It's slow, there's not really a plot, it's just trivial day-to-day life, and that's something that I can feel can be really overlooked sometimes. The trivial things can be some of the most important things in making who we are as people, and there's something endlessly cozy about watching this show, where all they do is go to school, do homework, hang out, be friends, have fun. The episodes are mostly self-contained, besides some callbacks and jokes and whatever. I would even go as far as saying you could watch these in even smaller segments, splitting up each individual episode, and it would still be completely coherent. The perfect show to put on in the background or when you don't know what to watch. I wouldn't even say I connect all too much with the humor in this show either. Sure, there's a few jokes here and there that I probably chuckled at, but I could really take it or leave it for the most part. And yet that's still not even a negative comment on the show. It doesn't have to make me laugh, that's not what I'm there for. I will say though, one of the parts that does amuse me is the end of each episode. It's silly. I like it. I would think I'd be done and ready to move on to the next episode by the end. That's how I usually am, but I'd stick around and watch these little news segments. Pair that with the fact that when I watched the final episode of Lucky Star, it was on a train in the middle of nowhere in Thailand at like 6 in the morning, and there was rain pattering on the windows, and I had just woken up from my 2 hours total of sleep on that train. Truly magical. 10 out of 10. Ghibli films are the obvious pick for all of this list, but I didn't want to clog up the whole list with them, and everyone knows Ghibli films, so I figured I'd just talk about my favourite and maybe then a couple runner-ups. Nausicaa is, in my opinion, the greatest Ghibli film ever made. It is genuinely one of the most beautiful pieces of art that I've ever seen, and it is pure magic. It really feels like it was somehow made specifically for me. I don't think there's another thing out there that I could compare this movie to. Aesthetically, it's on another level entirely. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world that humans have poisoned, and in response the world has created a massive jungle that is set out to cleanse the earth, at the same time being poisonous to the humans. The Valley of the Wind where Nausicaa lives is beautiful, and I love the little community that they have there, but the jungle is really the standout of the film, especially the bugs. There's a bunch of cool bugs around. Obviously the standout is the Ohms. They're massive and cool looking, and I love them and all of their eyes. The backgrounds are painted beautifully, and you can really feel the cell animation in the characters in the best way possible. I love digitally animated shows and movies, and there's tons of beautiful ones out there, but nothing will ever beat cell animation, especially when you can see it in such detail, and especially when it's in a film as lovingly made as this. I guess the only thing is that Nausicaa doesn't have much, if any, character development throughout the film, but that doesn't really bother me. Sure, if I wanted to really review this film and delve into its problems, which there are some, I'd probably talk about that, but it is really not something I even register when just watching it on a whim. Everything else about it is just so stellar. Another thing I find neat in this film is the stark contrast between the jungle, the peaceful Valley of the Wind, the towns, against the Tolmekians with their big ships and their weapons and their anger and whatnot. One of my favorite scenes is when she's trying to stop the baby Ohm from going in the acid lake. The fact that there's no music accompanying it, the desperation in it, the willingness to let herself be burned from the acid trying to stop it from going in. She's a great protagonist. Maybe not in a protagonist sense, but just as a person. She wants to help, she cares about things, and she does her best. Also, look at Tito running around during this scene. I suppose the film is maybe not cozy in the sense of the word, but to me it feels cozy, especially given the fact that I feel like it's something you can just watch and not think too hard about, just following what's on the screen, or you can watch it and think more about the world and the jungle and the history and what isn't touched much upon besides the big guy at the end and the exposition explaining the history. Also, the manga's cool. I haven't read it all yet, but I do have the box set. It's fun. Though technically not a Ghibli film, it is still Miyazaki, and I still rate it that way. If we were sticking strictly to the definition of cozy though, not as a feeling, just as a describing word, I would have to say Kiki's Delivery Service is up there too. But these films have been talked to death, and I think I've said too much. I like the runtime for Ghibli movies a whole bunch. Long, yet not drawn out and boring. They keep your attention the whole time somehow. Speaking of 2-hour movies... If you asked me at this point in time what the most powerful film I've seen recently was, there would be no hesitation. If there is one thing on this list that I urge you to watch without listening to anything about it at all and go completely blind into, it would be this film. That is essentially what I did, and I can tell you it was definitely not a cozy film the first time that I watched it. It has such powerful themes and characters, and I'm not ashamed to admit I cried to it, yet I find myself coming back to it, just to watch, just to admire, and it has morphed into something that is oddly comforting in a weird way. Maybe it's the happy ending. I'm a sucker for everything working out, and knowing how it ends makes it a little less stressful. I don't think I've ever done such a 180 on my opinion of a character in my life. There's a lot of media that tries to do this, you know, bad guy bully turn good, but I have never seen it as effectively done as here, and I have never cared as much as I have while watching something like this. I was genuinely rooting for Shoya. I needed him to succeed or my whole day would have been completely ruined. I love the fact that instead of focusing on Shoya directly improving his behavior, it almost skips past completely all of it. We see him at the start as a young guy being a bully, being all mean, and you kind of hate him, and then you cut to him being 18 in his last year of school and he's miserable. But we don't have to see him grapple with trying to become a better person. He knows what he did was terrible and he's paid the price for it. Instead, the focus on him is used to improve him socially and mentally. He's already a good guy. We see that throughout the middle of the film. Instead, he needs to learn how to accept himself and have fun with others, to stop having so much self-doubt and learning to love life again. And it's nice to see him recognized at the end of the film, not as a monster for his previous actions, but just as a guy, a pretty nice guy at that. And he gets his nice circle of friends. Also, the film is just so fucking beautiful, and that's not usually something that I find myself thinking while watching digitally animated films. I'm usually more drawn to the grittier, older stuff, yet it was so pretty. The whole setting just feels cozy, besides the bullying and everything. Some of the side characters I would brand as a little inconsistent and maybe not completely integral, but there was definitely some that stood out completely to me. Shoko, Yuzuru, their mother, Shoya's mother, Tomohiro. The rest I could really care less, but it has a solid enough cast to stand on 2 feet. I did hate Naoka though. At least Miki had the whole victim thing going for her as a character. Not as a likable one, but at least for a solid character. Naoka I could really care less for, but whatever. It's such a real depiction of mental health and anxiety and bullying, all of which aren't played for laughs and are taken seriously, while still having some comic relief from the side characters. It was based off a manga which I have yet to read, but I'm hoping the lack of some of the character development is fixed, since they had to cram it all into a 2-hour movie. Also, it's 2 hours, and it's a slow burn movie, yet it keeps your attention completely the whole time, especially on rewatches. Highly recommend.
I shall saw through your mana and the soft pink flesh underneath.
You're right. I doubt there is anything I can do to sever your thread. Really? That's all it took to convince you you'd won? Demons these days are such a disgrace.
I really thought there would be more older shows on here, but apparently not. So far, at least. Anyway, here's another new one that I love endlessly. Frieren. When I think of a cozy show, I think of something with endless replayability, and this is that show. I genuinely believe I could have this show on repeat throughout the day and not get sick of it. I love this show, especially the tone and feel of it. It's so slow, yet for the first few episodes, literal years are flying past while still being slow. Soon enough though, it does settle down into its three main characters, and whilst I don't really care for Stark at all, I don't have any negative thoughts on him, but I don't have particularly positive thoughts on him either. I have no thoughts about him. I love Fern and Frieren and their dynamic, and both of them by themselves, and I think what Frieren does so well is just characters. You have the old party that defeated the Demon King with Frieren, you have the current party, you have all the new characters from the last 10 episodes of the season, and they really surprised me. I genuinely went into the episodes of the trials expecting not to connect to any of the people and to brush them all off, but I can't remember a single one that I disliked. I really think that they helped to make the episodes with the mage trials the best in the season, and it would not have been the same without any of them. Especially the fact that Frieren and Fern are split up for a majority of it, and Stark isn't there at all, because we haven't seen them separated since the beginning of the series. We get to see them making new friends and enemies, we get to see Fern proving that she's awesome as fuck, and a powerful mage, and we get to see everyone underestimating Frieren like usual. And Frieren herself in general is just such an interesting character to me. She's already completely powerful, probably one of the most powerful people in the world besides Ziria, and yet she's so completely down to earth and understandable. Maybe it's because she's humble and doesn't seem to brag or even really care about how people perceive her, but she's interesting to me. I boil it down to the fact that this story isn't just about her power or her defeating things, it's about her specifically, how she feels, her emotions. I mean, we see that in the opening episode when Himmel dies. She comes to this realization, but it takes a long time to really process that and actually try. The scene where she gives Fern a birthday present is really cute, I think. I like how she slowly learns socializing somewhat and meeting new people and understanding what it's really like to live and connect with people. And God, I am so fucking excited for season 2, I'm shaking. Much like the earlier shows mentioned, a lot of the episodes are self-contained, maybe if you ignored the whole last third of the show, but it really feels like a show you can just pick up and put down and still get really into. That's how I watched it up until around episode 18, where I finished the rest in one sitting. Seriously, the end of season 1 is so good. I've never been so invested in anything in my life. I've rewatched it so much, usually late at night when I can't decide anything else to watch. I just want to relax and switch my brain off. I'm just praying that season 2 keeps it up, and I think it will. They have some strong characters. Snubbed for anime of the year. Fuck you, Solo Leveling. Violet Evergarden is a show that in many ways feels really similar to Frieren to me. Though much shorter in length and maybe more of a cohesive story throughout, it really surprised me in being as enjoyable as it was. I don't think it was a masterpiece of a series, and I don't think it did anything especially groundbreaking, but there's heart in it, and I think that's the most important part of a show. If I can connect and feel, I will love the show no matter what. It's laid back mostly, slow paced. I can't say I cared for any of the side characters really. My focus was mainly on Violet for most of the time, but God is she such a great lead to root for. I love seeing her learning stuff and understanding emotions and experiencing things for the first time. And it really feels like the perfect setting to put a character like this into to watch them learn and understand. I could not picture this character as anything else but a letter writer, and I think it's an incredibly clever way to portray the way that she thinks and processes emotions, and measure how she's learnt. This is a show that I can say I have a definitive favourite episode of too. Episode 10. I feel like this is really a point of history in the short run time of the series. It really feels like we can tangibly see the change in front of us, coupled with a story about a terminally ill mother who hires Violet to write letters for her daughter that she gets to read as she grows up, so that even though her mother is physically gone, she will still always be with her. It's really powerful, especially seeing the kid not completely understanding at first, just thinking that they aren't paying attention to her and wanting attention and wanting to know about the letters, and we see Violet cry at the end. Violet, who begins the series as an emotionless killing machine, gets to go out and do this thing and gets to be part of this family and help them and really understand what they're going through and be an important part of that. I think this series is filled with a lot of small things like that I find really beautiful. That just being the most powerful case of it in my opinion. I cried while watching it and while rewatching it. I love it. Even though it might not be the definition of cozy to some, it is slow paced, emotionally driven and endlessly cozy to me every time I rewatch it. An awesome show. Okay, speed round. What's a good list without at least something about music, specifically a band, specifically Bocchi the Rock? I think this show is cozy. It's kind of dramatic, but it's played for laughs. It's stylized and fun and silly, and yet a nice story about overcoming fears and stuff. The characters are fun and they're nice people. I like that part in episode 9 when they realize they haven't invited Bocchi anywhere for the whole summer. It's nice. Everyone knows this show though, I don't need to drone on about it. Cool show, I like it. I'm writing this script instead of practicing for my own band's concert tomorrow night, and recording it the night before. Also, the songs in this show are so good. Highly recommend. Hey, it's editing me. I just got off a radio show too where I name dropped Bocchi the Rock. So that's cool. And his favorite show, Bocchi the Rock.
I want to shout out our friend Sean.
I really feel like there's something oddly special about shows that you can pick up and put down, like Lucky Star and like Pokemon too. Shows with self-contained episodes really just lend themselves to that cozy feeling that I'm looking for, and the most well-known probably is obviously Pokemon. I mean, everyone knows Pokemon, so there's not really much I can probably say about it that hasn't been said before, but I like Pokemon, especially the show. Look at some of the cool guys they have. That's all. Okay, so this one might seem a little strange for the list, and it is. It is very strange for this. I'll admit that, and I think most people that have seen this OVA would definitely disagree with me, and I'm not here to change your mind, but I see something special in this OVA. In a way, it is hauntingly beautiful, and I'm not talking about the body horror, spooky type stuff. There's something about the still shots in this OVA, the day-to-day stuff that makes it feel special. I think this goes hand in hand with the sounds in this OVA too though. The music is great and the sound design fits the tone so well. It really feels like a scene handcrafted and where every detail is meticulously placed. I've seen a lot of criticism for the visuals. I've seen a lot of people talking about certain stills being held for too long, but I think that really just sells the off-putting vibe it's giving off. It's something that I'm able to watch and admire, and I think that's really cool, and that's what makes it cozy for me, though the content inside is anything but cozy. I think there's something about horror in general that I find some comfort in a weird way, but it's been my favorite genre for years and I had to put one on the list. I think we've covered everything, the main ones at least for me. There's still a bunch of cozy anime. Some were made to be comforting, some weren't, yet still somehow are. At the end of the day though, it's all in the eye of the beholder, and there's no right or wrong anime that you could declare as cozy, so to speak. Maybe nostalgia blinds you and takes you back, which is something that could happen with almost anything you watch. Maybe you just connect with one of the characters. Maybe you can relate to it. Maybe you just find it cool as fuck. That's the awesome thing about it. There's so many good shows out there to be discovered, you just have to find them. I genuinely think watching these, not just anime, just movies and shows in general, can be one of the greatest joys in life. I love caring too much about my weird characters in my screen. I love rooting for them. I love feeling sad for them. I love getting angry at them, and I guess if you view things with something like that in mind, everything you watch can be cozy. Everything can be a nice escape. Well, not everything, but things you like, you know. You're probably picking up what I'm putting down, and if not, then I did a pretty terrible job. What I'm getting at is that these and many other shows and movies are magical and awesome and great, and if you take one thing away with you, if you made it this far into the video, and disregard the fact that some of these were spoiled to some extent for you, watch one of the ones you haven't seen, or just go watch something new. There's probably a show or movie you've heard great things about that you haven't got around to watching. Go do it. Have fun. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you liked it. Bye.